Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 25K subscribers, so your subscription would be much appreciated. So, if you are watching this video, it means the Miami Heat have just been eliminated by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA playoffs. I have recorded this video before Game 4, but there's a chance they win that and it goes on further. Either way, I don't think there's anything that could happen in that series that is particularly relevant to what the future of the Miami Heat looks like. And they're in a weird position because there are three roads in front of them, and it's three roads that are usually presented for any franchise, but in this case, those roads are ones that all would make sense and be very reasonable and have both good and bad outcomes for the Miami Heat. Those three roads are rebuilding, retooling, or making a blockbuster trade. So blow up the roster, see what you can do with some new pieces, clean slate, start from scratch, cash out your assets, and get the youth movement going. Or do you stick with a lot of the pieces you already have and try and improve on the margins, maybe make a small move here or there that actually makes you a competitive playoff team in the East? Or do you go big time deal, get a star player, even a superstar tier player? So here's the pros and cons for each of these approaches. Now, on the rebuild front, on the pros, you're guaranteed to get a much higher draft pick, and that's kind of been the issue for Miami for a bit now. They've just not been able to get like a good draft pick. They've gotten okay ones. They've gotten late first. And to be fair, in the like late lottery teens draft picks range, they have done a good job historically. They got Bam and Tyler Hero from around that range. But at the end of the day, as good as those guys are, they are supporting pieces. So if you want to more easily land a real franchise player, you're going to have to do that through the draft. And they haven't actually historically been a team that lands their superstars through the draft. They got Dwayne Wade there, and that's pretty much it. Shaq, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade returning, if you want to count that have been in between Jimmy Butler, but whatever. They've actually historically been a team that actually goes and gets star players, but if you want to draft a franchise future cornerstone, blowing it up is obviously a great way to go. Some cons, though, you're throwing out established talent, culture, and rapport, which is something that this team cares a lot about. Like, they enjoy their homegrown talent, they enjoy building up players over a period of time. And, a couple of players who would hypothetically get shipped out in a rebuild are like long-term projects that this franchise is invested in. And the culture tends to go with it when you rebuild a team because like it's hard to establish anything resembling a winning culture if it feels like the people in the front office are actively trying to lose games. And you're obviously also going to lose rapport, history, guys knowing each other's tendencies. Like a big part of the reason that the Miami Heat were able to win in the play-in in the two games that they did against the Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks is because they were just a pretty well trained and well coached basketball team, because the main pieces, the most important pieces being Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, had played together under Eric Spoelstra's system for a very long time. So they were able to default to a lot of the same old tendencies of the past, even if they were really, really bad during the regular season. And you're also losing that. And more tangibly than just a lot of this frou-frou fucking talent, culture, and rapport. What about actual tangible shit? Well, I think there's a real chance you would lose Eric Spoelstra. What are the chances that he's super inclined to just sit around for a long-term rebuild? Because while he's had some excitement getting to two NBA finals in the 2020s, for the most part, in the regular season at least, they've been a disappointing team, and Eric Spoelstra is capable of a lot more. And they have, ever since the LeBron era ended, been asking him to make a lot out of not so much over and over and over again. If they end up just throwing out all the talent that they do have and being like, hey, what if we gave you an even worse roster and actually wanted you to lose? I would not be surprised at all if that was when Eric Spoelstra said, hey, I appreciate what you've done for me as an organization, foundation, but I am the best coach in the NBA and I deserve better than this. As for some pros for retooling, and spoiler alert, this is the one that I anticipate the Miami Heat going with. It keeps your established talent around and you manage to remain competitive and you're able to build on a foundation that you are familiar with. Clean slate protocol is a really nice thing to think about, and it's a very common fantasy to just abandon everything and decide that you're gonna start fresh, and there's a lot of grass is greener type energy that comes associated with that, but then you find yourselves on the other side of that rebuild and you regret it. I can tell you that very directly about the way that the Jimmy Butler era ended in Chicago. It felt like a rebuild was the natural, smart thing to do, and in hindsight, a retool would have been nice. However, if you don't feel like your established talent is that amazing, then why do you even want to stick with that foundation? Like, yes, this is a foundation but it's a foundation that's crumbling. Even if a retool is going to raise your floor, it is very unlikely that it's ever going to raise your ceiling. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's treading water, but the Miami Heat tend to go that way historically. Then, as for a blockbuster trade, the pros of that are pretty obvious. You land a superstar or borderline superstar tier player, take your pick. There's going to be a good amount of guys available this offseason, whether it's Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Ja Morant, Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, Zion Williamson. And that's just to name a few. I'm sure there's some other players who could be made available, but some of the cons that are associated with that is you have to give up long-term assets, which the Heat have made very clear over the last couple of years they do not fuck with at all. They do not want to do that. And there's also not many great options on the market. And by great, I just mean like obvious guys who you want to build around. There are options, but there's not like oh shit, that's the way out of this. It's like, okay, what does a Kevin Durant trade look like? And so on. There's also the big salary cut aspect of that. They haven't had to pay a guy like money in quite a while. So I guess Jimmy Butler made a max contract, but I don't know. Like, there's a bunch of guys who they can trade for in this pool that I just referenced who are making like $50 million, and that's a big chunk of change. The other thing is, like, how much is that superstar going to be willing to adapt to Miami Heat culture? Because that's the test that must always be passed by these guys, whether or not it's actually fair to hold these standards against them. Nevertheless, that is what happens. And I don't know, maybe you could just let it fucking slide that, I don't know, fucking Kevin Durant wants to smoke weed or something, or Zion, like, wants to eat chicken every day, every other day, or maybe once a week. Maybe don't be a dick about it, but that's the way that they behave. So they're going to be picky about their stars. And the problem with that is historically them being picky about their stars just means not getting a star, period. And I think that's the reason that they won't go this way, because it's just not really the way that they do things. Yes, Miami is a team that makes blockbuster moves, but it's not blockbuster trades, it's blockbuster signings. Like Jimmy, Chris Bosh, LeBron, the Shaq thing was a trade, but otherwise they like to make splashes in free agency. There's not really a big option for that available this offseason. So I think they're just going to go with the standard treading water move that the Miami Heat do, which is extremely annoying, but nevertheless real likely. Now, if it were up to me, if it was my choice, I would say you should look to the trade market and see if there is genuinely a big splash like actually available. If you have like a really good deal, or there's a player you're buying low on, things like that, then by all means go for it. But if you don't like your options there, then I think you should blow it up. Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are damn fine franchise cornerstones, but they're not like cornerstones. Like, they're like the guys who are supposed to be your second and third most important player. And knowing that they are in that tier, as much as we definitely do, as much as we can know something like that, it just seems like a waste of time to be committed to going forward the next couple of years, knowing what the ceiling on this team is. I think you're far more likely to become a contender in 10 years by trading these guys and repurposing and using those assets appropriately than you are to contend for one in the next 5 years with them. And then by the time those 5 years would be over, you will have wasted all of those years and they're not going to be worth jack or shit in a trade anymore because they've gotten older. So I think you cash out on your assets, move Andrew Wiggins, anybody else that you can get anything for, really. I would keep Ware, I would keep Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, even though what the hell happened with that guy, and Davion Mitchell as well, even though Davion's 26, he's not young, but I would keep them around. But Bam and Hero would be on the go. I would really love to see Bam in LA. Not that they could make a good offer. Like, I don't think it would happen, but it would be fun. Give that lob target defensive guy literally as perfect as it could be, and they run the floor perfectly. But yeah, whatever. I don't know. The Miami Heat, I like the starting lineup that they have. I think they're a cool team. I like them now after the Jimmy Butler era, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I think treading water is probably the direction they're going to go again. And I must admit that is a little disappointing. Let me know what you think if you're a Heat fan down in the comments below. What do you want to see your franchise do going forward? But that is it. Goodbye.